Hello everyone, I'm back. It has been 110 days since I did the last quarantine watch list. It's crazy how quickly time passes, especially in a lockdown. Months become weeks and weeks become days, or whatever the expression is, but you know what I mean. I meant to do a 200-day watch list, but I was caught with the Spooktoberfest, and after that I wanted a little break before the final season came, so I was busy focusing on that. Now that the semester is over, I am back, summing up everything I watched in the past 110 days ish, which is a lot. Now, because of the nature of this, I'm not going in depth for any of these films because this video would be extremely long if I were to do that. The whole point of these videos is that it work as a diary for me. So if you want the grades or some of the extra thoughts I have for everything mentioned here, you can find it on my letterbox. Link is in the description. Everything mentioned in this video will also be in the description. So let's get started. The Untouchables was basically the beat-for-beat blueprint for the American remake, but which I find very touching. Ida, directed by the same guy who did Cold War, was beautifully photographed. Clouds of Sils Marias contains one of the most exciting moments in Asayas's entire filmography. Personal Shopper rewatch was a blast. I love this movie. It lingered in my head for years since its release, and is still my favorite Asayas film. Wasp Network is reinvented Asayas on steroids. It started off very strong but couldn't quite balance between the characters and the message. Nonfiction is quite a bit of a boomer movie that talks about the democratization of art and its impact on the older generation. Branded to Kill 1967 has incredible aesthetic and technical achievement, but some parts that are meant to be serious, I just laughed my ass off. Winter's Child 1989 pretty much is another Asayas film from before the 2010s if you've ever seen one. And then timeline wise, this is when I started writing for the Spooktoberfest 2020. I'll put the playlist on the top right corner where I reviewed 31 horror films and talked about some of the films I decided not to review in the after show. Go check that out. Feels good, man. Had some interesting things to say about internet culture nowadays through the lens of the creator of Pepe the Frog. The setup was not the best, but it got better the longer it went. The 8th grade rewatch was cringier than I ever remembered seeing it in theater. Pieces of April was one of the few films I actually read the script before I watched the film. I hated the script and I hated the movie. 101 Nights is going to be talked about in the Spotlight after show, but yeah, this is such an awesome film. I just love it. And Got Spoke came out in 1993 and it was truly ahead of its time. Everything that happened with Tommy Wiseau's The Room and Got Spoke called it a decade beforehand. Bonnie and Clyde was okay. It has a charm to it. The editing in that scene was insane. I watched Tenet in IMAX. Yes, you're welcome, Chris. Didn't understand a thing though. I'll be rewatching it in subtitles very soon. The Foot Shooting Party was a short, came out in 94 with a 20-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by one of my directing mentors. Road to Perdition is an incredibly well-crafted film that shows Sam Mendes and Thomas Newman have been vibing the same score since 99. Children of Men was a technical masterpiece. There's really no doubt about it, but I'm not sure if I cared about any of it. Memento rewatch was fun. Inception rewatch was fun. Dunkirk rewatch was fun. The Open House, I knew it was pretty much trash before I walked in, so I watched it with the audio commentary by Chris and John. It feels like I'm watching it with friends and the time just passed by very quickly, but yeah. It's a terrible movie. Adaptation was such a meta film that if you're into filmmaking or screenwriting and have studied or are studying it, you are going to resonate with it one way or another. 1BR on Netflix was alright. It does have that vibe of which you feel like you've seen this before, and you probably have. Dogville is another experimental avant-garde film by Lars von Trier. It's the story about a town all shot in one soundstage. The title of the film is brilliant. It's very long, but it's very unique. The Town by Ben Affleck was just a bit too thin for me personally. It feels too superficial to me. Network was really well directed, especially some of the performances here, but I feel so distant from everyone on screen. The Revenant was beautifully lensed, beautifully acted in a very simple plotted story, and yeah, that stairwell scene from The Untouchables was insane. The film does feel a little bit formulaic though. About Time manages to defy expectations with his screenplay almost at every turn. The subtext and theme of gender roles is extremely subtle. It's barely there if you don't look hard enough. Incredible soundtrack too. Cape Fear was probably the most tongue-in-cheek film by Scorsese I've seen so far. Robert De Niro was crazy in this one. Scary Movie 5 rewatch. Don't ask me why. I watched it in 3 sittings during my downtime just to pass them. I was bored. Donnie Brasco provides a once-in-a-lifetime experience with Johnny Depp and Al Pacino butt-heading against each other for 2.5 hours. Forget about it, huh? Three Colors Blue, I'm gonna have to rewatch this one before I talk about it and move on to the next two installments. Planet of the Apes 1968 is somehow strangely borderline disastrous, and yet it is one step away from being ingenious for me. It's a mixed bag, a big one for me, but the ending is great, yes. His house has some really intense and imaginative imagery. I'm thinking of ending things takes such an odd approach to his nihilistic ideas. I'm still not sure about the execution. I might have to rewatch it in January. Victoria's technical achievement was insane, and these have to be some of the most annoying characters ever. It was kind of pissing me off, actually. The girl who leapt through time was... I got the same problem I have with many other anime. The scariest thing about the Elephant Man is that you walk out thinking who the real Elephant Man is. The Babysitter Killer Queen, its best parts are the ones with Samara Weaving in it. She had about 20 seconds of screen time. Earthquake Bird has a really interesting backdrop, but the writing and the non-chronological nature of it just did not service the film at all. Enola Holmes has a lot of energy, but it's almost instantly forgettable. The high notes ending bamboozled the fuck out of me who spent time watching it. It's very formulaic, but it's harmless, really. On the Rocks shows you the back and forth banter between the two main leads, which can be very entertaining. The Lovebirds really is just another early comedy you see every year. I love me some Kumail Nanjiani, don't get me wrong. The Man with the Rubber Head from 1901, yeah, Millet was a genius. Tesla takes such a different approach to a biopic with characters jumping out of the story world telling you facts from Google searches about a person who lived in the 1800s. I love the way the film looks. It looks fantastic. Come Play really wants you to be scared of Instagram filters and SpongeBob. I was truly terrified, yes. Did you guys hear that terrible ADR in one of the scenes, or is it just me? The banker feels right and fitting for this time in particular, which really isn't surprising by this point. The half of it was a fish out of water who dove a bit too far. I love me some movie that feel and look this way though, to be fair. A Good Woman is hard to find, has some good streamlined themes, but some of the scripting really needed some more drafts. Run is 7 a niche second feature after the excellent Searching. Maybe I was expecting a little too much. Maybe I give them more leeway, but I think Run was just fine. The personal history of David Copperfield's editing was lightning fast, sometimes as if they're really rushing it because the first cut might have been 3 hours or longer. To the Stars really feels like lightning in a bottle. The cinematography feels extremely lived in, and you walk out wondering if you're in that exact world they're in. Bad Hair really should have taken a lighthearted approach. Before the final maybe 20 or 30 minutes, it was taking itself way too seriously. Deerskin got its tone completely right. As ridiculous as it is, it does its job. An American Pickle is a film so ridiculous you cannot stop watching. It's so absurd in its concept. I really enjoy myself watching this one. Making Waves, The Art of Cinematic Sound is a documentary talking about post-production sound. If you're interested, it has some good stuff in there as it breaks down the sound editing process of a film. The most intriguing thing about Spree is the idea of if what you're seeing is real or not, which serves the theme quite well. Lake Artifact has a very exciting concept, but the execution was a huge misfire, I thought. The Dark and the Wicked, I thought, was just one step away from being truly masterful. I Used to Go Here talks about the struggle of an artist, or in this case, specifically a writer. I think it worked for the most part. Get Duped is about a very powerful fork. Antebellum proves that the genre has officially gone too far by this point and that we should chill. My Octopus Teacher is a softcore fetish porn that, as beautifully shot as it is, should really focus on the things that matter to the story first, and that is the simple context. I'm still not sure about how I feel about the cultural side of things, but Over the Moon I thought was a formulaic mess. Kajillionaire is such a beautifully smart piece of filmmaking. It definitely marks a highlight for me in 2020, and it tells you that your brain is probably in your tits. American Murder, The Family Next Door runs like a better produced Shane Dawson video, but it's not trying to say anything else other than the story itself. Driveway started off a little rough because I wasn't really sure where everything is going, but once the film settled in, this really touched me with its attention to details. As an introvert, Happiest Season was extremely stressful to watch. Love the cast. Danny Levy was hilarious, but the film as a whole doesn't have much color or flavor. The Vast of Night is an insane, low-budget sci-fi that really caught my attention. It captured the idea of theater of the mind so well, I really need to go back and re-listen to the film. The Nest was... yeah, it was alright. Tangerine shot on an iPhone 5S, though I know the style is just ain't for me. Black Bear was super trippy. I love the second half and how it kind of plays off the first. Aubrey Plaza gave her best performance I've seen so far. It's just a crazy movie. The Witches by Robert Zemeckis was something you probably stumbled across on TV as a kid and be traumatized by it as an adult. This is not good. Bloody Nose Empty Pockets takes documentary filmmaking to another level, blurring the line of real and stage. Like, how do you go from talking about 60-year-old titties to plutonium that can upset the Earth's balance? Freaky was entertaining enough. The first act was horrible, but Vince Vaughn was really good in this one. Sound of Metal I thought was a good time. It deals with something I wanted to see cinema explore more, and when you realize what the Sound of Metal is referring to. Mank, it could be a first-time viewing thing, but I didn't quite like this movie, but give credit where the credit is due, and you know what some of the praises for it are, so let's just move on. Kindred I thought was too thin with its character, conflicts, and suspense. Uncle Frank, as much as I love the movie for what it is, I hate it for what it could have been. Despite the story of Ammonite, it's disappointing how thin the plot, the on-screen conflict, and the stakes are. Wendy took me by surprise with its original score. Without prior knowledge to what the source material is supposed to be, I thought it was okay. Let 'Em All Talk is a hangout movie that doesn't really have much going for it, I thought. Possessor is when Denis Villeneuve decided to direct Nolan's horror version of Inception. There are scenes my bottom lip didn't touch my top lip. The visual is kind of crazy. The SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, was the Dead Men Tell No Tales of SpongeBob, where it breaks everything the franchise stood for and its continuity. It's such a mess. It's quite unforgivable. Rogue teaches you to live within your meme and don't waste money on stupid shit. The non-linear storytelling in Hillbilly Elegy really was a misstep, as one storyline is significantly more powerful than the other, of which just feels like the peanut on the sundae that you don't really like. Canvas was pretty good. If Anything Happens, I Love You was the scariest film I've seen this year. I was legit shaking. Underneath the surface of Unhinged is amazing how petty and shallow everything is. The Wolf of Snow Hollow, while I appreciate the tone the film is reaching for, it also creates a byproduct of me not feeling for any of these characters. Bella Thorne gave her best performance yet in Girl, but the script, like Unhinged, feels so petty and insignificant. I thought Liam Neeson retired from action films, but Honest Thief is here to tell you honesty is the best policy, even if you're a criminal who robs banks for fun and you're still going to jail. The Light is the movie you've been searching for if you're a spoiled little fuckhead. Coco di Coco Day from Sweden is a time loop movie that talks about grief. Quite on the nose. It can be very trite. Okay, that's everything I watched since last watch list video. Thank you so much for watching. More videos are coming now that I have more time. Subscribe for more. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for being here, by the way.